My name is Flavia Höring, and I will talk a little bit more how to submit FAIR data to PANGAEA. So first, we've already seen some data set at PANGAEA, so I want to show you another one and point out how FAIR data looks like at PANGAEA. So we've also heard about the FAIR principles of data management, and you can see that data at PANGAEA is findable. It has a persistent identifier, so you can see that it has a full data citation with DOI. It's also equipped with rich metadata, so you have information like an abstract, keywords, or funding information, and much more. And it's searchable online. Accessible means that it's retrievable using standardized communication protocols via our website. The metadata is always open, and an access restriction is possible. We are an open access repository, but we have we offer a moratorium of up to 2 years, for example, if you're still working on a related manuscript. So if you scroll further down on our website, you see even more metadata like event information, so where the data was sampled, for example, or measured. You have a parameter information, full parameter names, who is the contact person for each parameter, and method device information. So our data is also interoperable because we use common formats and standards and also controlled vocabularies. And the data is reusable because, again, we have rich metadata attached to each data set. And we also provide license information. So in case of PANGAEA, we always have an open access license. And this makes sure that you know how you can reuse the data once it is published. If you scroll even further down the website, here you can see an example of the data set. So this is an example for tabular data, which is what we focus on in PANGAEA, but we also have binary files. And you can open this data table in HTML view, or you can also download it as a tab delimited text file together with the metadata. Another advantage of PANGAEA is that we do lots of cross-linking. So we can link lots of references to your data set, for example, code or paper references that are related to the data set, but also related data sets like sequences at other repositories. Moreover, we can link institutions, also ORCIDs of researchers and project and funding information. And this is, quite important to identify certain institutions and researchers, for example, but also for statistics. So you can measure a success factor, for example, for an institution, and find out how many data sets were published in a year for this institution. Moreover, we link, for example, to standard vocabularies, organisms, for example, the World Register of Marine Species, but also sample identifiers like IGSM. Moreover, PANGAEA data, we've seen that before already by Mareike. She showed some examples in Google, for example. PANGAEA data is harvested by different portals and services. And here's another example, the Marine Data Portal, which is quite important for the marine research community. And if you enter project information of the dataset, which I just showed you there, you can find the dataset there in the list, and you can also, there's the DOI link, you can get back to the dataset at PANGAEA. What is also very important is that datasets are cited correctly. So please make sure to make your data citation count. Datasets, I showed you that they have a full data citation at PANGAEA, so you basically cite them like a paper reference. So here's an example from a paper publication, a screenshot, and actually in this case an in-text citation was inserted into the data availability statement, and the full reference was put into the reference list of the paper. And please make sure that you only refer to the persistent links, because in the review process of the dataset, we also provide temporary links. So please make sure not to put them in there, but the persistent link. And if we also provide the final data citation to you, but in case you have any questions about that, you can always ask us also in the review process. So when you start to prepare your data and metadata to PANGAEA, you will probably look for guidelines. So I wanted to point out that we have lots of help pages, the called PANGAEA wiki, to prepare your data, metadata, and also other topics about data publications at PANGAEA. And you can get there when you click on help on our website, and you can find, for example, our authors guides there, but also best practice manuals and templates and much more. So Mareike already told you that we focus on field observation data, but we also have experimental data. And I want to go now a little bit more in detail what kind of data files we take at PANGAEA. So our focus is on tabular data, and we prefer comma or tab delimited text files, but also spreadsheet format is fine for us. If you want to submit binary objects, we, for example, take net CDFs, images, or videos. And if there's any metadata related to your data, any documentation, you can also submit these files in addition to the data files, for example, as PDF or plain text. I wanted to repeat again that some data sets are not accepted at PANGAEA, so we do not archive raw data without metadata, sequence data like FASTA files. We do not archive model data without any relation to field data, and also no software and code. But as I showed you before, it's possible to cross-link such information in case it's related to your environmental data that you archive at PANGAEA. So when you prepare your data and metadata for the PANGAEA submission form, you should first think about what did you measure, so the parameters and units, who measured it, who are the authors of the data set, who is the PI, and is there an article related to your data? Where did you measure it? Because of course our focus is on georeference data. When did you measure it? So information like date, time, or age. And how did you measure it? So information on methods and devices, and how you collected and processed your data. So please be aware that data authors are not or do not have to be the same as the paper authors. So data authors can be all contributors to the collection and the processing of your data. So for example, if there was a technical assistant involved in data collection, this person could also be a data author. Please be aware that you have to provide titles and abstracts for each data set. And I will show you on the next slide a little bit more detail on that. Please also provide information on the preliminary paper citation if you're working on a manuscript that's related to your data, and also other references, including DOI. Don't forget project and award information, like who was the funder and award IDs and project name, because this is really important to us so we can link this information to your data set. You may also include a separate metadata titles, for example, in case you have multiple abstracts or dataset titles, if you have a really complex dataset. Also campaign and event information and parameter information like the full parameter names, units, PIs, methods, and comments. And I show you an example how this could look like later. So to point out again, some guidelines about titles and abstracts. So an individual abstract and title for each data set. This would, for example, the case if you have several data tables, so different types of data set that you put into one data submission. In the data set titles, please include information of what, where, and when the data was measured. And in the abstract, of course, there's a little bit more detail about the data set, about what was measured, where, when, why, and how. And you can have a look into our wiki article to find some more details about that. You may also include necessary references in the abstract, and please avoid copying manuscript titles and abstracts, because this is different to a dataset title and abstract. Don't use any abbreviations or explain them, and avoid interpreting results. So in the abstract, we should really just explain what the dataset is. So we link campaign and event information to our datasets. So I wanted to point out as well that we have a website, expedition website, and also lots of information in our database already about the cruises that were done with the bigger German research vessels. So we archive the station list of these research vessels. So if you have a data set from these cruises, please have a look first and use the same event labels, so the same event IDs. And in this case, also the event information like coordinates are already available, so you don't need to provide this in addition for us. Regarding parameters, we use a mix of relevant standard vocabularies, for example, for organisms, the World Register of Marine Species, species names, and also community standards. And you can find a complete parameter list under this link, although it's maybe not so easy to find the right parameter there. So I would recommend that you check out similar data sets in the PANGAEA database. But if you can't find one, don't worry too much. Most important is that you provide the full parameter name with the unit to us, and then the data editor will help you to find the right parameter in our database. So here you can see how you prepare a data table for PANGAEA, as we focus on tabular data, and we have some more guidelines for that. So the prepared format is tab-limited text files or Excel format. These provide the positions, so latitude, longitude, and decimal degrees. Also include a third dimension like water depths or depths in ice, depending on your data set. Date time must be provided in ISO format and as coordinated universal time. And parameters should always have a unit. And the first column is always the event and station ID. Explain abbreviations, so what is clear to you might not be to us or anyone else using your data. And you can find the full guidelines in our wiki, in our author's guides. So now I want to show you one template we provide. So we have many templates for different data types in our wiki. And I want to show an example from the generic template for field observation data. You can see the Excel file here, but also we have a template for tab-delimited text files. And in the Excel file, you can see that we have an information tab with some information about data preparation and submission. Then you have campaign information, event information, parameter information, and finally your data table. So here you can see how the campaign and event information can look like. Red parameters are mandatory. You only need to provide this information if it's not available in the database yet. So if you were on a German research vessel, it's usually available. Please check this out, and then it's enough if you provide the event ID in the data table. But if not, please provide the campaign information, to us if there was a campaign. This can be a land-based campaign, but also research crews. Provide the begin and the end date. Basis would be the research vessel or the land-based research station, and also the responsible scientist. And the event is the sampling event or the event of measurement. And you have a unique event label. Mandatory is the device of measurement or sampling, the date, time in ISO format, and also the coordinates. And there can be some more information in the event table. For example, if you measure the profile, and please have a look at the detailed template for that. So here you can see an example for the parameter table. So this is especially important if you have complex parameters, because it makes the life also of the data editor much easier to put this information in our system. So you have a full parameter name, the unit, the principal investigator, which is a contact person for the data, and it also can be different for different parameters. You have the method device information, which is usually the primary instrument of measurement. And we have a special syntax there, which is instrument type, manufacturer, and model name. And you can also add a comment and find more information about methods in our wiki. So I want to show you now two examples for the actual data table. So here's an example for field data. So first you have the event column with the unique event label. Then it's followed by the coordinates and decimal degrees. Then you have the third dimension. In this case, it's depth water. And please make sure you always enter the full parameter name with the unit. And then, of course, you have date, time in ISO format and UTC. And then this information depends on your data set, and is also followed by different parameters depending what you measured. So here's an example for laboratory data. For often it's not so clear how to prepare that for PANGAEA. So we still link laboratory data to field events. For example, if you take an organism from the field and then you do experiments in the lab, so we still link this information. So what you would then provide the sampling information in the event table, and then just add to your laboratory data the event ID as first column. Then you add the column type of study, which in this case would be laboratory experiment. And this is important to us to distinguish between field and laboratory data in our database, and also for others to reuse the data. Then you have the date, time of the observation in the lab. And in case you're working with organisms, please give us the full species name and also the unique identifier if available, because we will link this to the species names in our database. Often in experiments, also the treatment is very important. So please add experimental treatment columns there, and then it's followed by the actual data. And here we also have the general rules like full parameter names and units. So this is my last slide. So hopefully you got a better idea now how you prepare data and metadata to PANGAEA. So if you have everything together, you're ready to submit. So over this link. But I wanted to point out that we at PANGAEA, we do really a detailed quality control and review of your data set. So please be aware that the processing time of your data can be up to several months. It also can be much shorter, so it really helps if you prepare your data really well. And of course, it also depends how complex your data set is. If you're worried that you don't want to publish your data yet because you're working on a manuscript, we also offer the option of an access restriction, a moratorium of up to 2 years. So this is an option, and anyway, you should submit your data as early as possible to us, because we have this several weeks, months of processing time, and the latest stage would be to submit it together with the submission of the related manuscript. And with this, I would like to say thank you.